Hello, Packers fans. Welcome into PackersNews.com. I'm Kassidy Hill, joined by Pete Dougherty here at Lambeau Field, where, Pete, the Packers have fallen to 2-2 after a 34-20 loss to the Detroit Lions. They fall to second place in the NFC North. And perhaps the stat that says the most, this is now the fourth loss in a row to the Detroit Lions. When was the last time you could say that?
I'd have to look it up, but it's been a long, long time. The Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers back-to-back quarterback has crushed Detroit. And it had been a long time since they'd even won here until a couple of years ago. But, I mean, I asked Jordan Love if the Lions are the team to beat in the division now, and he basically said, yeah.
Yeah. You know, it actually sounds weird because you say, well, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers didn't let this happen. 3 of these 4 losses came to Aaron Rodgers, so something to consider. But, Pete, I feel like this was the first loss. The Packers, of course, had the loss to the Atlanta Falcons and then the almost lost but comeback win versus the New Orleans Saints. This is the first game where, beginning to end, Jordan Love has not looked great. He's had some flashes, but overall he struggled this game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, there weren't many flashes tonight. Tonight was by far the most pressure that he was under with the pass rush. I think I saw a stat that the Lions only blitzed once in the first half, and I think that was on the last play of the first half. But Hutchinson, that's a good D line. Newman got worked, got bull rushed a few times. This was by far the most pressure that Love has faced in the 4 games.
Yeah, coming into this game through the first 3 weeks, Love had only taken 3 sacks. He took 4 today, and in fact, I think it might have actually ended up being 5 when all was said and done. Yeah, 5 for 43 yards. But to your point, so much pressure. It felt like the pocket was collapsing so quickly over and over. So how much do you put those 5 sacks on Jordan Love versus the offensive line, who was without David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins? And Zach Tom played, but he had been questionable all week.
Yeah, there was, I'd have to go back and look, but there was at least one pass where I thought Love held the ball. But there were a couple where guys were in on him, and it wasn't just the sacks. I mean, there were some balls that he had pressure in his face, and he didn't have a lot of juice on the throw. There was a back foot throw that he had that he missed because he was throwing from his back foot. So I think the pressure, this is what I'm surprised teams haven't come after him more. Now the Lions didn't do it by blitzing; they did it just by outplaying the Packers' O-line. They're not going to have Bakhtiari. I mean, there's a pretty decent chance they won't have him the rest of the season. So they can't lament that. Having Jenkins back, whenever he comes back, will make a difference. But they got worked. Their offensive line got worked today.
Yeah, definitely beat in the trenches. Let's actually hear what Jordan Love had to say about his day versus the Lions.
I've been a part of some tough games, but that was a very hard first half. Like you said, just nothing. We just weren't executing, weren't moving the ball, and we weren't taking advantage of the opportunities that the defense was giving us early. So it's something that we just got to look at. We just got to. I think that's 2 weeks in a row that we started really slow on offense. Just haven't been able to get anything going. So we got to find out what that is, and I think everybody just has to play better. Starting the game, me included, just got to be able to come out, start fast, and put up points. So we're not playing behind and not it's just making it harder on the defense.
Pete, at halftime, the Lions had outgained the Packers. I want to say it was something around 211 yards to 20. The Packers had 20 net yards. On their first drive of the third quarter, there was one play from Jordan Love to Christian Watson where they had more yards on that play. It was a 24-yard pickup than they had the entire first half. Trying to figure out the nice way to say this. Pete, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. How many different times can they say, we've got to get Aaron Jones the ball more? And I know that Aaron Jones was on a snap count coming into this game because this was his first game back since week 1 with the hamstring injury. He told us in the locker room afterwards, Pete, that he didn't really think he was going to be on a snap count until the game started and he realized he was being kept off the field. How many different ways can you say we've got to get Aaron Jones the ball more and get this run game opened up if you're not going to do it?
Yeah, it's really clear after 4 games now that they don't have a running game without him. So, I know they don't want to get him hurt and end up having him miss another month because he aggravates the injury, the hamstring injury. It's funny you said the definition of insanity because LaFleur basically said that about the run defense, where well, we're gonna have to do something. Basically, he said we're gonna have to do something different because what we're doing isn't working. So to keep doing it, he didn't use the word insane, but basically that's what he was saying. But I mean, they couldn't run the ball, and that also put more pressure on Love. You got a first-year starting quarterback. You don't want to put everything on him, and that's they did it for the fourth quarter last week against New Orleans, and they won the game. But again, the offense was on him today, and he couldn't deliver. The Lions were too good, and they are the Packers' run defense. It looks no different than last season.
We're going to get into the run defense again here in just a second, but let's actually hear from Matt LaFleur and Darren Jones on what this offense can do to possibly get him involved more.
We knew they were going to be a challenge to run the football against. They've done a nice job with that. We had some run pass options, some can plays, and give credit to them. They did a good job because when we threw it, we weren't very effective throwing the football either. So, or at least early on. I think as the game went on, we were able to get some stuff going, but obviously it was way too little, too late.
What do you think happens when you have to cause a first half like that, where you couldn't get nothing?
I mean, you saw it, Pete. I mean, we got our ass kicked. If I knew, it wouldn't have happened.
I wasn't really aware that I was going to be on a pitch count, but they did mention to me hey, we're going to monitor you. So, but I trust our training staff, their judgment and everything that they do. So they're just always looking out for the best player, for the best interest of the players.
Now let's go back to the run defense, Pete. I asked every defender in the locker room tonight that I spoke to, Kenny Clark, Quay Walker, Rashawn Gary, Wooden, are you worried about the holes in this defense that are being exposed? Because through 4 weeks they have been. Even with the Saints last week for that first half, they did everything Atlanta did. Lions did that again tonight. Lions came into this game one of the best in the league off play action, and that's really kind of all they did. And I asked Kenny Clark, is it just different on the field? And he said, no, they did everything tonight that they had shown on tape. We just couldn't stop it. So to LaFleur's point, something has to be done different. What do you do different?
I don't know. That's starting to get into the technical things. I don't know if there's anything personnel-wise they can do. I mean, they played a fair amount of base defense, which should be good for stopping the run. They played nickel. So I don't know technically the things they need to do. I mean, there are things that you can do where you slant your lineman one way and have the linebacker slant the other instead of just playing the normal straight-up stuff. So maybe they can do things like that. Maybe some guys have to play more or at different positions on the D-line. But they got work. They got manhandled up front in this game.
And it feels like they've been trying to counteract it. Quay Walker, golly, 19 tackles tonight. He was everywhere. And then Rudy Ford, this is now, I believe, the fourth week in a row that Rudy Ford has finished in the top 2 in tackles on the team. He had 8 tonight. Darnell Savage only had 5. That's the least he's had all season. But it feels like they're loading the box when they have to. They're moving guys around. Of course, they didn't have Devondre Campbell tonight versus the Lions. But is it maybe more? You mentioned personnel. Could you maybe shift schemes? Is that an answer?
I mean, Joe Barry runs the defense he runs. Now you would hope that a scheme would have enough flexibility where you can do a lot of different things. With a safety, safeties make a lot of tackles, but with Ford making that many, there's a decent chance that several of those are down. They're at least a few yards downfield. So you really, that's not run stopping. That's
also Savage, I think, because he's been in the box.
Yeah, and that's given up 6 or 7 yards on a run then when those guys are a lot of times when they're making tackles. So I don't know. I mean, this is a technical football question, and Matt LaFleur made a big decision by bringing back Joe Barry to run his defense, and he did it for continuity reasons, and that the defense would hit the ground running. They know the scheme, they know the players. There's no sign so far this year that they have hit the ground running. And we're basically, a quarter of the way through the season now.
Let's actually hear from some of the guys in the locker room tonight on what they think is going wrong on defense. Last thing, Pete, we saw the Lions get held to a field goal down in the red zone And then the field goal was negated because of a Packers penalty. Quay Walker came over the top. There was some confusion at first because people were saying, like, you can't put your hand on a guy. And I was thinking, well, he didn't. It was the running start he took. He started 3 yards back and then leaped. He needs to start from the line. He took the blame for that in the locker room afterwards. He said it's coached correctly and it's coached often. But he took the blame. And he said it was just kind of adrenaline. But there have been penalties on special teams multiple times through the first 4 weeks of the season. Is that personnel? Is that coaching? What is the issue in your opinion there?
Well, it's, there's emphasis. You get what you emphasize. And, ultimately the person responsible is the special teams coach. So it's on him, it's on Rich Bisaccia to somehow stop these from happening. They're killing them. They even had a good kickoff, or it was a good kickoff return, I think it was, by Nixon that called back. Hidden yardage. I think got it out to about the 45. Well, you start the penalty from where the penalty was committed, so you lose that yardage, and then you move back even farther because of the penalty. So the hidden yardage there is significant. But no, it's on the coach.
Let's actually hear a quick word from Quay on what happened on that penalty.
Took a running start. I can't do that. So I got to be aware of the situation. I got to know the rules in and out. And so I got a line on the line before I can jump. I can't take a running step and then go. So I was wrong.
Pete, this team now gets 10 days off before they head to Vegas for a Monday night showdown in Week 5. They did not have Elton Jenkins versus the Lions. They didn't have Jair Alexander. They didn't have, I'm trying to think, Aaron Jones and Christian Watson were both on a snap count. How crucial can these next 10 days be?
If it gets Watson and Jones back closer to being, if not full-time players, at least somewhere in that vicinity, that would help a lot. And if it gets Alexander back on the field, he's one of their best defense. Yeah, and Campbell also, but especially Alexander, he's one of their 3 best defensive players. That would help a lot. I don't know Jenkins. That's probably, I think MCLs are generally 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. So he could be. He's probably, I would guess, going to miss a couple more weeks. Maybe he's through the bye and then he's back after the bye. That might be what they're shooting for.
Oh, sorry. I thought you had more to say to that. We will find out over the next couple of days here. We expect the Packers to maybe take it easy over the next few days with this mini bye that they get essentially after a Thursday night game and not having to play again until a Monday night game. And then, as Pete said, they'll get the actual bye after that. And then maybe another bye because they play the Denver Broncos. So we will see who they are able to return over the next few days here. We will have full wrap-up coverage for you on this 34-20 loss to the Detroit Lions on PackersNews.com. Pete will have his column for you coming in the next couple of days as well. And then stick with us as we get ready for Week 5 versus the Las Vegas Raiders. Pete, thanks as always. Thanks, guys.